Hello, everyone. So give people a couple more minutes to log in before we start. So just bear with us, please. Okay, let's start. People can still keep logging in as we go. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time. My name's Jen Fourie, and I look after marketing here at Incuba. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please just remain on mute until the Q&A session at the end, at which point you can raise your hand for questions and I'll unmute you to ask, or pop them into the Q&A as you think of them during the presentation, and I'll ask them for you at the end if you prefer. We do encourage engagement, so it would be nice to hear from you. So let's get started. I'd like to welcome Trent Rossini, who is our speaker today. Trent is the Managing Director and co-founder of Incuba, a leading customer journey orchestration platform. With many years of experience combining behavioral economics, marketing, and technology to drive customer success, Trent brings a wealth of expertise to the table. Previously, he spent a decade at Discovery Group, where he spearheaded their online channel and launched PruHealth in the UK. As an Endeavour entrepreneur, Trent is recognized for his high impact entrepreneurial achievements. He's passionate about leveraging technology to drive business outcomes and deliver value to clients. Today, Trent will share insights on how to achieve customer profitability through journey orchestration, exploring practical strategies to ensure your customer management initiatives to deliver tangible ROI. Okay, over to you, Trent.
Thanks very much, Jen, and thank you for everyone that both registered. We're actually pleasantly surprised by the number of people who attended. As many of you know from your marketing experience, the number of the people who register and then attend are not necessarily correlated, but we're looking pretty good today. So let me jump in. I'm obviously going to be using a slide deck and sharing some things as we go, as well as doing a demo of the Incuba platform to just illustrate some of the points. I will be asking a couple of questions along the way, so if you can hop into the chat and the Q&A, it'd just be good to get some of the feedback along the way. So I'm going to start off with what I think is a CMO dilemma. Now, not everyone on the call today is a CMO, but you've one way or another must be involved in some kind of marketing initiative. Otherwise, I think you probably wouldn't be here today. So if we look at the CMO survey that gets conducted on an annual basis, this is actually a tracking survey that gets updated on an ongoing basis. And it's quite interesting to look at a couple of perspectives. So the first question that they asked is your company using marketing technology and systems? And obviously, overwhelmingly, the answer is yes, companies are. Interesting to note as well, something that surprised me, in fact, is that mining and construction actually shows up higher than finance and insurance or tech and software, where we often operate. So no doubt that doesn't come as a big surprise. Next question is, will you be spending more money and will you increase it over the next couple of years, over the next 5 years? And again, not unexpectedly, the answer is yes. We certainly, as marketing people, we will be spending more money on technology, and it'll form a bigger part of the budget that we're going to be spending on technology. Right. Here's the dilemma. if we ask the same bunch of people, are they getting value and are they seeing an increase in value? The significant number of people are saying, no, we're not getting a payoff. So the gap between the expectation of the technology and how it's delivering, in fact, is increasing. And that in itself says a lot. And maybe that's why we've got a relatively high level of attendance today. So what I'm going to share with you is, I believe, a very compelling approach to solving this very dilemma. All right, so let's talk about driving revenue. So I'm going to start off with the basics, and none of you are going to be surprised by the traditional life cycle. This would form part of your daily lives. Customers become aware of a brand, they go through a consideration and a purchase stage. And then once they've purchased, they start to experience the brand. So you go from brand promise to brand delivery. And then ultimately, what we have is loyalty and that should progress if you're doing a really good job to advocacy. And for those of you that come from a customer experience management space, you'll know about NPS, the Net Promoter Score, and you'll also know about how that's the theory goes that if you can get advocates for your particular brand, that you get a repeat purchase. I think that's largely true, and not many people would dispute that point. I do like this quote from Maxi Schmidt, and she said, do you know whether or not your customers feel it's actually worth it to be your customer? And I think that's a great quote and it's a great perspective, because it really talks about the fact that customers have so much choice these days, and it's up to you as a brand or deliverer of service to make sure that you come into the party in terms of the value for the customer. So let's take this down a level and take it from kind of the concept into a little bit more of a practical perspective. One of the things that we talk about a lot at Incuba is that we want to make sure that we begin with the end in mind. And the particular end in mind that we are considering today is obviously having a profitable business. This actually plays out even for non-profits, because often with non-profits, they're trying to drive value for the stakeholders in mutuals, for argument's sake. Now, to do that, it's not about generating revenue. I think that's the wrong perspective. We believe that the right perspective is that customers should reach their goals. Now, to get that right is obviously customers have to progress towards the goal. And it's maybe an obvious point, but you don't start off at your goal. If I want to open up a checking account, if I need casualty insurance, if I need health insurance, if I want to take out a mobile plan, I don't start off at the goal. I start off at a different point. Similarly, if I want to upgrade my mobile plan, I don't start off with an upgraded plan. I have to progress, and there's a couple of steps that I have to take, and I might do that across channels. So I progress along the customer journey. Now, what we also know is that customers act on nudges. And we know that those nudges from a behavioral science point of view can be very effective in terms of driving customers along the customer journey, with one big caveat. And that big caveat is that customers must perceive that they're receiving value. And there's somewhat of a debate around this area about whether you can actually deliver value or whether customers participate in value delivery. But the point is that there has to be a perception of value that lands up within the customer's realm. And that's why we firmly believe that to manage profitability, you have to manage customers through customer journeys. So let's look at a customer journey. A particular example I'm going to use today is one for short-term insurance. Kind of massively simplifies this just to get the point across. So if we have a scenario, for argument's sake, that you're building awareness through some marketing campaigns, then potentially customers are coming and they're either requesting a quote through a website or a call center, and then ultimately they receive the quote through one of the channels, and then they make a decision. You know, are they going to accept the quote? Are they going to decline it? Maybe they just go completely cold. Maybe they're going to review the quotes. Maybe there's no movement for quite some time. And ultimately, they make a decision either to accept the quote or decline the quote. And then subsequently, there might be another action, in this case, for instance, installing an app. So there are quite a number of questions that we believe you should be able to answer, and go through some of those. And just think about this, particularly for those of you that operate businesses in different industries. Do you know which customers are on the journey? Do you know how long the customers have taken to complete their journey? Do you know where customers are perceiving value and where you should prioritize your efforts to improve the customer journey? Do you know who's dropping off? Do you know who's reaching the goal? Do you know which journeys are profitable and which ones are costing too much? Do you know where customers are dropping off, and how do you know what to do in terms of reducing that drop off? Do you know which nudges are effective? Do you know which ones are not effective and potentially you have to optimize? Do you know which customers to contact and reach out because a digital nudge is in fact not working? And do you know which customers have stalled along the journey and what you need to do to actually get them to the goal? And do you know how to personalize interactions for that particular customer to take them along the customer journey? All right. Now, all of that is necessary ultimately to answer the question, how can I drive profitability? So in other words, drive insight to action. So this is probably the first point. So I just want to ask the question, and I'm not going to kind of turn the mics on and have an interactive session, but it'd be great just for people to give a sense. I'd be quite interested to know if anyone on the call today is able to actually answer all of these questions, because I certainly of the view, and I know this from a conference that I in fact did yesterday, that it seems to be that these are good questions to ask, but that very few companies are actually in a position to answer them. So I'm very keen on your perspective. Jen will just check and we'll do a quick check-in in a couple of slides' time just to get your feedback on that. So I'm going to look at that same perspective, but now rather through the lens of a journey, I'm going to look at it from the lens of metrics. So we've already established, and the whole purpose of today's session is to talk about profitability. So how do we get that right? And there's actually quite a few options that you have available to you. You can either retain your customer base, or what you can do is you can generate new sales, or you can take your existing customers and you can sell them more, so upsell and cross-sell. Now, to do that, or in support of those initiatives, there's lots of things potentially you can do. You can nurture people along the sales journey. You can help with better onboarding. One of our insurance clients I'm going to share with you has done a phenomenal job in this area. You can improve your servicing so that people have a great experience. You can introduce chat commerce, which we are big fans of, and we've seen a lot of value. And in fact, I'm going to share a case study around that. Or you might do something quite simplistic, such as collect documents, because documents might be outstanding, and that might actually be stopping the process of moving forward. Now, against those business initiatives, there are lots of things that you should be able to answer. This is just a different perspective on what I spoke about earlier, but you need to know your goal rate, your drop-off rate. You need to know things like your customer satisfaction, either through qualitative feedback or quantitative feedback. So qualitative obviously would come through comments and comment sentiment. You need to know which customers are idle. That's super important. And idle really means that they're not progressing towards a goal. If you do have engagements, people engagements, digital engagements, do you know the effectiveness? And then importantly, do you know the journey cost and the journey profits along the customer journey? So let's start off by giving you what we call the kind of basics of customer journeys. This is the way we characterize journeys from an incubator point of view. So using that same journey that I had as an example earlier, the first thing that is important is we want to know entry context. What is the entry context? That's basically what you know about your customer, who they are, what perspective they come from. If they're an existing customer, you know a lot about them. If they're completely new and you're generating a new demand, you might just know the channel that they came from, but you might actually have some tags in your ad to know which particular ad brought them to your environment. The next thing you need to know is you need to know that a customer has in fact started on a journey. Not just this journey, there could be multiple journeys. I'll talk about that a little bit further as we progress. And then two very basic and important points that we know from the work that we've done are typically quite difficult to answer. The first is who got to the goal, and then who dropped off. And obviously, it's fair to say, and I think it's universally true to say, that far more people will drop off than reach the goal. And we, again, know that from the work that we've done. Along the way, what can happen is that you can collect context. You can learn more about the client. You can learn about their interests. You can learn about what they like and what they don't like. And very importantly, and something that's fundamentally different from a normal campaigning stroke messaging solution, is that we understand time. And time is such a vital point. And there's two dimensions of time that we look at. The one is how long have they been on that journey? What's the duration? And the second element is, have they gone idle? And idle is it's a foreign concept. I'll drill into it, but it's really this notion of inaction. So we're trying to represent data to show where people have failed to act. And then what we do is we put nudges in place. Those nudges can be outbound calls, they can be pop-ups on a website, they can be messages that get sent out. And obviously, in the longer term, we can evolve all of this to put predictive models in place to actually determine who is likely to stall, who's likely to reach the goal, and who's likely to fall off based on all the context that we collect. Let's drill into that nudge. Just at a simple level, we've got a journey, and we've got two neutral points along the customer journey, and we've got a goal. All right. And what nudges and idle points are really about is we're trying to identify when people are no longer progressing. And we do this through timers. So each customer is tracked at an individual level. And what we do is we then put nudges in place once you've determined an idle. And those nudges, as I say, can take different forms along the customer journey. And a lot of what we do spend our time doing is we spend our time observing and understanding customers as they're going along the customer journey, and then nudging them towards the goal. So often when we engage with customers, they go, okay, so you're just a fancier version of campaign management. And I want to talk a little bit about why I think that's largely not true. So let's take a simple example. Again, insurance or financial example where you've received a quote, you've confirmed that quote because it's been sent off, there's an application submission, there's a notification of the policy acceptance, and maybe there's a welcome pack. So many of you and many of your businesses are in a situation of sending off communications at different points in the customer journey. And I have no doubt that you are doing that today using different channels. This really isn't what journey management is about. To try and characterize it to the approach that we typically take is we'd look at a customer journey like this. Just bring up my pen and say, okay, a customer journey has a start point. So maybe it's a quote through a website or a call center. And then what we do is we start to track, and very importantly, we're keeping track of where we are along the journey. In this particular case, the goal is app acceptance, and we're keeping track of progress along the way. And when that's not happening, we're sending reminder nudges. We're sending very appropriate and personalized messages along the way. Sometimes what we're doing is we're interacting with backend systems to be able to get more contextual information. And we are driving towards interim steps, like for argument's sake, collecting outstanding documentation or potentially making a call. And what we're doing further is we're collecting context to better understand people and the people that are on the customers that are on the journey. And right at different points, it might be during the journey or right at the end of the journey, we can get feedback. And then really importantly, and this is such a logical thing to do, the whole notion of Net Promoter Score is ultimately that you want to be able to engage people that recommend your brand. So, for people that are having a great experience, obviously what you want to do is you want to do the upsell. So that hopefully gives you a better sense of what we look at when we talk about journey management. What we do in turn is we send a series of messages that take that context, are quite interactive in nature. We can do that across different channels. I happen to be showing you the WhatsApp channel here, which in certain of our markets works really well. And the whole idea is that you're dynamically changing the journey along the way. So already I've introduced quite a few concepts. For some of the people on the call today, we've got some of our existing customers, and some of this would be familiar to them. And for others of you that are new to the work that we're doing at Incuba, these might be new concepts. So when we start thinking about the continuum of journey management, often our starting point and the way we engage with customers is with customers that have no customer connection. So you as a corporate are not engaged with your end customer. And the first thing we want to do is we want to get you along a journey of the journey to start establishing those deep customer connections and getting to personalized dialogues, obviously taking into the context of the journey. Once we've done that, we then start to focus on optimization and customer profitability. And once we've done that, we start moving towards AI engaged enabled customer engagement. Now, to support each of these tiers of maturity, you need various capabilities. I've mentioned some of them already. To get to personalized dialogues, you need to know about idles, you need to have nudges, you need to have omnichannel engagement, you need to be able to ingest data and understand goals and drop-offs, you need to track back-end transactions, you need to be able to track channel transactions. To get to the next tier, what you need to have is another set of capabilities. So things like the ability to interact with back-end systems through structured dialogues. You potentially want to filter your customer journeys, and you want to segment them. You want to have more sophisticated goals that not only look at the fact that people have reached the goal, but actually whether they reached the goal and they had a great experience along the way. You might start to incorporate multiple journeys and manage across those journeys. And then that gives you really a segue into understanding life stages and customer profitability. The next tier really is where the AI personalization and intelligent agents come into play. But today's focus and today's webinar is really going to be focused on that optimization layer. So I'm going to skip over some of the more basic capabilities. Obviously, if anyone's on the line and they want to discuss that in more detail, I'm happy to do that. Today's focus is really around optimization and profitability. So just maybe to ground people that are attending today, I just want to position that you don't go from sort of zero to hero in terms of journey management overnight. So typically the organizations that we engage with are somewhat lagging, and we're fortunate to be able to work with them. And they start to then progress and start exploring by doing some of those basics. So getting the engagement in place, tracking the goals. And that then gets them to a first level of success, and we start moving towards personalized dialogues. We then start to build on that and start working towards journey segmentation and structured dialogues and cross-journey management. And then we progress ultimately to optimize journey and profitability. And over time, you get to true optimization where you're actually using more intelligent systems to get to use some of the predictive models and the AI personalization that's possible. I will say that a lot of the benefit and return actually comes early on. So I would appeal to anyone that hasn't started going down the journey management route to really start off with exploring and getting their first successes in place, and then obviously building on that over a period of time. And that's very much a refinement process as you progress. So Jen, I'm going to check in with you and just see what kind of comments did we get from people in terms of their feedback in the ability to answer some of those questions that I popped up earlier.
I don't have anything as yet. If anyone's thought of anything and wants to stick it in the chat or Q&A, please do that now.
All right, great. So I'm going to carry on then.
Okay, yeah.
Great. So let's start looking at some of the detail of the profitability. And, once again, I want to start off with the end in mind and start to think about some of the things that you probably should be answering. And this is really an extension of what we spoke about earlier. So the first is obviously, do you know how much a journey path costs? What is the cost of a whole journey? What's the revenue associated with a journey? What's the profitability of a journey? What's the cost of a customer to date? What's the potential revenue from a journey? That's equally important. I mean, can we make more money from it? What potential can we get from a journey if we actually improve the conversion rate? What's the revenue of a customer to date? What's the cost of an intervention? A lot of the discussion often is around the choice of channels. Can we look at the revenue associated with a particular intervention? What's the profitability of an intervention? Should we do more of it? Should we do less of it? If there are lapses, what does that look like? if we can reduce the lapses, how can we reduce the cost of the customer journey? Now, to do this, the exact mechanism that we use, to be honest, is pretty straightforward. We've got a customer journey once again, and really all we do is we tally up and keep track in a very similar way that you do from an accounting point of view of basically who started the journey, what costs you've incurred along the way. So we have a journey start. Potentially what we're doing is we're incurring cost as we progress along the way based on some previous revenue to date. We then start marketing to people. People get stuck. We maybe make some outbound calls. We make some offers. We support them through maybe the store network that we have or the branch network that we have. And while we start off with revenue because we're an existing client, we start then declining in revenue. But our efforts, our marketing efforts, ultimately should translate into revenue generation if people reach the goal. And we go from a situation of a negative profit, i.e. a loss, into a situation of being able to collect a revenue over a period of time. Now, the extension of this is that what we can do is we can take that information and we can start to summarize it. So the basic level of understanding is basically understanding the cost of revenue and profitability. And then what you do is you start to build on taking that same data and distributing it out to your customers and your segments, to your products, and ultimately through to your engagements. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you is basically reporting that allows us to keep track of people that have reached the goal, indicated in the light green at the top, people that are still that have dropped off, that's in the really pinkish color, and then people that are still along the way. And we look at how that correlates with customer satisfaction. And we can drill into that customer profitability. I'll actually take you through a bit of a live demo a little bit later on. I also want to talk about another element of optimization, and that's really got to do with not just a customer on a single journey, but in fact, customers across multiple journeys. So one of the things that we've developed in our capabilities is this ability to be able to track journeys. Now, how do we track journeys? Well, we ingest data from a variety of different systems, and that data can come in on a real-time basis. It can come into on a batch basis. And let's just assume for the sake of the description that we've got journey A and journey B. So as this data comes in, we might get some data that, for instance, indicates that contact 2 is on journey A. Then we get some real-time data that says contact 1 is on journey B. And then we get some batch data that comes and says customer A is now on, customer 1 is on journey A. And now we've got contact 3 on journey B, etc. Now, the reason this is quite important is that the data that we're receiving is telling us about the journeys that customers are on, but the data we receive is often out of sync with what actually happened in the customer journey. And that's because some of it's coming from a website, or some of it's coming from a backend system. So it is quite important that if you're thinking about a journey solution, that you're taking into account all of these complexities. Ultimately, what we can then do is we can drill into a contact and we organize this data regardless of its arrival within the platform, and we can then look at the sequencing. So some extra complexities along the way is we might have a customer on journey A, and we have to think about, well, if they interact on journey A and we have a series of communications, if we start messaging them across both journeys, we've got some real complex situations, and often the customer will be quite confused. Now, you can't stop a customer from going on a journey. They might, for argument's sake, be, let's say they're in a multi-services or multi-product financial house. They might, for instance, be a checking account customer while applying for a home loan. So you've got your application for your home loan while you're on your checking account. You can't stop the customer from interacting while doing their servicing for their checking account. But we do need to bear in mind what's going on and then make choices about how we engage with customers across those different journeys. so as to not confuse the customer, and also to make sure that our messaging is super effective. And that's part of what we're able to do then with our rules, to be able to keep track of that. Similarly, often what is required is that you might have a customer on journey A, and then you have to make a decision about whether you take that customer to journey B or journey C. And again, you want to be able to explicitly track that. We've spoken about having multiple customer journeys, but often for organizations, what they want to do is they actually want to understand the aggregation of multiple journeys across the whole organization. And that's where we start looking actually at the life cycle or life stages of a customer journey. And the objective here really is to take information from all of those sub-journeys and summarize them up so that you can get a very good sense of where the customer is. And obviously, the time frames involved with the life cycle or life stage journey are very different to the time cycles associated with active journey management on a day-to-day basis. We can then extend the concept that I spoke about earlier from a journey profitability point of view and look at lifetime value. So here, again, we've got an insurance example. We've got different leads, very simple example, a digital lead, a face-to-face lead. We've got different products at different points in time. And over the life cycle of the customer, there's going to be certain points at which we are incurring costs. Those are indicated in the red. And there are going to be other times when we're bringing in revenue, and there might be multiple versions of those revenue, particularly for annuity products. And then ultimately on the right-hand side, what we're able to do is to take that data and actually do some analysis. So for argument's sake, two dimensions that might be of interest is, looking at the profitability for different tiers of reward, and then maybe looking at the revenue and profitability associated with different levels of Net Promoter Score. I do want to just pause here and reflect on a more traditional approach to this whole space of customer experience management. So for many people, and I think certainly if you look at much of the writing and lots of the activity around CX, it's in the domain of traditional CX, what I call traditional CX. And there the whole idea is that you design the target experience, you measure the delivered experience, and then you manage the initiative. So managing the initiative really talks about orchestrating and organizing people in the organization. And that works really, really well. It just turns out it is incredibly difficult to do. It is so difficult if you run a big airline, or if you run a big bank, or you run a big telco, to try and get all of the people in the organization lined up and doing all the right things at the right point in time with customers, offering this great customer service and making sure they're engaged. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that you shouldn't do that. I'm just suggesting it is very, very difficult to do. And I think therein lies a lot of the challenge and, quite frankly, a lot of the failures associated with traditional CX programs. The good thing about customer journey management is it's actually more about changing the customer than it is about changing the organization. And actually, it turns out that, in our view, that's actually easier to do. So here what we're doing is we're using data to analyze the customer journey paths. We're analyzing whether value has been delivered to the customer. And we're looking at where we're failing to actually take the customer along the customer journey. And then we're managing the interventions along the way to actually get to the conclusion point. And I will say that I think it's fair to say that you have indirect leverage working through the organization, where certainly with customer journey management, you get far more direct leverage. For some of you that are new to these concepts, often what we find is that people are overwhelmed. And that's understandable, because the concepts are in many respects quite overwhelming. But we think that there is a way to overcome some of the complexity, and you really need three elements. You need a really good methodology that is well structured and allows you and provides you a framework for engaging with the design and the management of journeys. Obviously, you need professional services, either from Incuba itself, or we've got a number of partners that we work with. And I'm actually going to mention some of them, and some of them are on the call today. So we work with Servin in the US. We work with Advance in Australia. We work with organizations such as Gestalt in India. So we have a number of partners that we work together with. And Cadena as well. We're doing a lot of work with Cadena in South Africa in the strategy space. And then obviously you need a platform, and that's really where we've come from. So let's jump into some of the profitability and analytics. I do have some slides. That was kind of the backup plan, but I'm going to hop into the actual platform itself because hopefully this will be a little bit more effective in sharing with you some of our capabilities. So here we have a customer journey. As I said, a customer journey always has a start that's indicated by the blue journey point. We've got an ad campaign going to a landing page and a product page. We've got an online application. We've got some idles going on over here. We've got some drop-offs indicated by the red points. And then we've got this advertising initiative leading to a quote. And then we're sending off the quote, and then some people accept the quote, some people drop off, and then we can collect some feedback at the end of the customer journey. So the first thing I want to show you is that this isn't a hand-drawn or workshopped view of the customer journey. It's actually really what's happening in the organization. So let's go and have a look at, for instance, the contacts that reach the goal. So I can select contacts that actually at the point or through the point. I'm just going to drill into that. And we keep all of this data within the platform. So let's go and have a look at the first person. This is, by the way, a demo set of data. So obviously we're not breaching any confidentiality requirements. We tried as best as possible to make the data relatively real, but it does have some flaws in it. And here we've got a customer journey. So you'll recall earlier I actually showed you sort of the concept, and here you can actually see how the data is coming into the platform, and you can actually see some of the dilemmas that we run in, where often the data that you actually receiving is out of sync with when the event happened, and then we label the journey points to actually understand where they are, and we understand the goals. And we also then calculate for each of the journeys a variety of different parameters. So we keep, for instance, track of who's on a comprehensive product, when they want to be engaged with. We look at the duration that's automatically calculated by the platform. We can label the channel. We can look at the journey cost, the profit, and the revenue over a period of time. So all of that data is dynamically kept as people interact with the customer journey. And obviously what I'm showing you here is the view of a customer journey for a single individual. Now, what we also want to do is we potentially want to go and look at the customer insights. And here what we're looking at is we're looking at basically what was the outcome of the journey. How many people completed the goal? How many people dropped off? And given our roots in the customer experience space, what we can start to see is we can start to see feedback. So, what are the positive comments, neutral comments, and negative comments? And if we go into a particular dimension and we've actually collected some metrics, I'm just going to go to the experience dimension where we've had a dialogue along the way. We can start to see what the average score is. So here it is 55%. And you can see kind of mix of comments along the way. The first thing I'm going to do is, this is kind of interesting, but doesn't really tell us the story as to why people are reaching the goal and why they're dropping off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the goal complete. The first thing I'm able to see is I can see, for instance, the path that people are taking. I can drill in, I can look at different cohorts of customers, see what the conversion rates are along the way. Our key areas of focus over here are different age groups. I'll cover that in a little bit more detail later on. And here you can see that obviously because we reached the goal, we've got far more favorable comments. Similarly, what I can do is I can go into the negative comments and I'm going to see a different set of dimensions. The first thing I see is obviously the experience is a lot worse, as you'd expect. I'm seeing more negative comments. So let's go and drill into a little bit more of the analyses of the unstructured comments. So I'm just going to go into our journey point analytics. And what we're going to look at over here is all comments of people that have had a negative experience. So just to illustrate that, I'm just going to go into a summary view that says, against the value dimensions, what is the feedback? Let's go back and just to compare and contrast, we're going to go and look at people that reach the goal. And once again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drill into the text analytics associated with that. And again, within the scatter plot, I can see both sentiment and volume, but often a good starting point is actually just to look at the volume. So you see the stark contrast between people that dropped off and the people that reached the goal. And, obviously, often what you want to do is you actually want to drill into some of the details. So I can always drill down and I can look at my comments over here, and we can see all of those nice positive comments. And similarly, I can go into my drop-off point and I can expand that out. And I can go and have a look at my comments, and you'll see a whole lot of negative comments that have floated through here. And that will, as practitioners, give you the ability to drill into some of the detail. Right, back to our customer journey. So one of the things I mentioned is that we can take this customer journey and we can slice and dice it. So let me show you an example of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this customer journey, and the first thing I'm going to do is let me go and have a look at all customer journeys where we have a low profitability. So we're going from basically a loss to a profit of, say, $400 or rands, as the case may be. And I can go and view that. So basically what we do is we apply a filter to the customer journey. And now what we can see is, well, what we don't see any people reaching the goal. And that's intuitively obvious because these people have not been profitable. Similarly, what I can do is I can then go and expand this, and I can have a look at customer journeys for which there is a profit. And here, as expected, you obviously see a lot more people that are actually reaching the goal. All right. Now, let's say we want to do a comparison. And let's say we want to compare, for instance, some young people and some older people and compare their customer journeys. Well, we can do that, and we can start to see that let's go and have a look at, for instance, the online application. You can see far more people, the younger people, are actually going through the online channel, and yet a lot less of those young people are actually going through the call center channel. It allows you to truly get an insight in terms of what's happening with the customer journey. So this gives you a tremendous amount of scope in terms of understanding what's happening in the customer journey. The next area I'm going to go into is I'm just going to close those two areas. Sorry, too many tabs open. Let's go and have a look at our profitability analysis. So this is really a summary view of the customer journey. It is something I touched on briefly within the introduction. And here what you can actually see is you can see different customers progressing, and you can start to see what the percentage goal completes are, what the drop-offs are. You can see the revenue either that's been achieved or potentially lost by people dropping off. You can look at the journey cost. You can look at the overall satisfaction, and you can look at the sentiment. And something that we believe is completely unique is that you can actually start then to drill into the relationship between profitability and customer satisfaction. So what we're actually seeing in this distribution view over here is 4 different levels of customer satisfaction. What is the distribution? So min, max, medium, for that cohort of customers that gave us 20, 40, 60, 80, or 100% on our CSAT score. And really what you'd expect to see, and hopefully if your CX program is working well, is as your customer satisfaction improves, that you get improving profitability over a period of time. We also can take this one step further, and let's go into a question that often gets asked, which is, how are my different channels performing? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare, for instance, my online channel with my call center channel, and I'm going to run that same analysis now for the 2 different channels. to actually understand the relative profitability. And using the data within the platform by understanding all the different customer journeys and summarizing the various journeys, what we're able to do then is we're able to get a view of the relative profitability of those two customer journeys. And this allows us to then start to do channel management and actually understand each of those channels and how they're effective or not. The same ability to filter actually applies to our unstructured feedback. So here, for instance, we can start to see exactly who's made it through on the online channel, who's made it through on the call center channel. We start to see we haven't actually got any feedback from the call center channel, so all of our feedback's coming from the online channel, and it really allows you to then compare and contrast your different channels as you interact. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to end off with one final view, which is actually to have a look at our engagement report. So we haven't spent a lot of time today talking about engagements, but part of what we do as we understand the customer journey is we start to understand each of the journeys. We know who started the journey, we know who's dropped off, and then we overlay on top of that the engagements of whatever channel, and we can choose those channels and report against those. Oops, I need to actually refresh the report. We can start to see who has interacted across the different channels, our W rates, our read rates, our idle rates, etc. We've also, let me just refresh that. Sorry, brought up this report before the actual session itself, and it does go through a time up process. There we go. Just refreshing that particular report. Okay. All right, so here we have our report where we can look at our different channels. And we also have a very interactive means to start saying, okay, given that people interacted with the ad channel, where did they go next? They went to the online application. How many of those went to idle? How many went to drop off? And we could start to explore and understand the paths that customers take along the customer journey. Similarly, we actually have a view of what I call the flattened view of that, so we can see what the distribution is of each of those interactions. So I think we've used up most of the time because I do want to leave some time for questions. Just want to kind of go back to this view over here, and hopefully you can see from the time that we spent this afternoon or morning for some people, that we are able to answer all of these questions in terms of where people are at, how long they're taking, why they're dropping off, why they're having success, why they're having failure. And, I think just in summary, I just want to finish off why we really do believe that a journey-centric approach is a better way to manage profitability. The first is ultimately that journeys are built dynamically based on data, so it's not theoretical, that we give customers the freedom to navigate, that we understand idles, that we can manage drop-offs, that we can use dialogues to enrich and understand the customer journey, that every customer is treated individually, and ultimately that profit management is baked into the solution. And this means that we have a far more effective way of managing customers from an end-to-end point of view. And, we just to finish off, I think it's fair to say that what we've managed to do within the Incuba ecosystem is we've put together a solution that doesn't require a lot of dev. So yes, you can do all of this yourself, and you can do it with a tremendous amount of really technical integration work. But I think it's not going to give you the speed to insight. It's not going to tell you where you should intervene. It's not going to allow you to iterate very quickly, sorry, I say, and ultimately, that ROI is not going to play out. So I'm going to stop there. and just finish off and then open up the floor for any questions that people might have.
Sorry, it took me a second there. While we're waiting for people to put their hands up, I'm just going to read a comment that came through earlier from Lindiwe Freeth. So you know those questions we ask about the customers that you referred to a second time just now. She said she thinks Timu would be able to answer all those questions. I have to say, I think I agree. I mean, the journey that you go through with them is just on point all the time. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that is the point, and I think for many people attending the session today, really the new age retailers, whether it's Amazon or Timu, much as, to be honest, I'm driven mad by Timu. Sometimes they're a little bit overbearing.
Yeah.
They really do use data to understand people and engage, and this. I think what we've developed is the same ability to do that with more traditional industries such as the telcos, the hospitality industry, the retail industry, etc.
Okay, thanks. I've got a question from Kim Salazar. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She said, thanks, Trent. Very impressive tools for analysis and building and understanding. I'd love to know if the tool facilitates any of these actions you may take to make optimizations based on this.
So very much so. I mean, again, I don't know if you remember, I went through the maturity continuum. So I didn't get into that today, just simply we didn't have the time. But a base capability of our platform is to actually understand where and to actually facilitate the actual engagement along the customer journey. So again, very happy to engage with anyone that has an interest in looking at the detail of how exactly we do that. But a core capability is, in fact, this whole ability to understand and then optimize to drive particular outcomes.
Thank you. Yeah, Kim's done a little thumbs up, so thank you for that. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask? Don't be shy. Okay, no one's putting their hands up. So I think we should close off.
Yeah, thank you very much for your attendance today. We've had a great audience. I'm hopeful that what we shared with you is of interest. Obviously, feel free to reach out. We'd love the opportunity to discuss your particular needs. Obviously, in a forum like this, the discussion is quite generic in its nature because it's a big audience from many industries. But if you do have a particular set of questions that's related specifically to your industry or your particular requirements or how to start on a journey management journey, pardon the pun, we'd very happily engage with you. And thanks again for attending, and thanks, Jen, for assisting in the organization.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for your time. We'll hope to chat to you all soon. Cheers.
Thank you.